It is Thursday. We managed it. We're back on a Thursday. Yes, it's Thursday. It is 9. UK Cowboys time. How we doing, fellas?
Feels good to be back in somewhat, because it kind of feels like we've had like a wee mini hiatus in somewhat. We've not always been available, but I guess that's always been because it's summertime here. We actually do have sunshine here in the UK from time to time. So,
what, even in Glasgow?
Oh yeah. Well, put it this way: I've still got sunburn on my shoulder. So,
yep,
that's not sunburn. You've been slapping yourself again, didn't you? You've been doing the Ric Flair chops on yourself.
Oh well, maybe one or two many, maybe.
Yeah, but yeah. How you doing, Lorne? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Struggling to get my head around the LA Rams salary cap, but
yeah.
Oh, please, can we can we just acknowledge that, right? If they, like, I said this in a tweet not long ago, did they literally picked up a game of Madden and go into the configuration settings of the game and basically edited the salary? Yeah, took the salary cap off or something, because that's what it feels like.
Yeah,
it does. And they're going to end up in cap hell for about 5 or 6 years or whatever. But
I know, and here's the thing: like a couple of years ago, they had no first round draft picks, etc. Like they trade their first round picks for all these high earners, like Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, all, like, you name it. Like we didn't trade a first rounder for Von, but you get the idea. You're bringing these guys with high end contracts, and yet it's still not impacting them as you would expect.
It's not going to impact them. The way things have been structured, it's not going to hit them right away. It's going to be the back end when it comes to strike them.
Yep.
And it'll hit them hard. Very much similar, really, kind of like what you've seen, like when the Eagles went on their Super Bowl run. Miles. Yeah, when you see them on it, really, what they did is they sold the future for the present.
Pretty much, man.
Yes. But here's a crazy one for you guys. It is officially episode number 200 in total. We're on the 200th episode.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
We have been here 200 times.
Wow. That's nuts. Yeah. But saying that, we do have a nice special announcement later, and basically in light of our 200th episode for our.
It's a good one.
Yep. See, so we'll announce it later, though.
We'll announce it. Yeah, we'll announce it in the news and updates, which we'll get to any second. But yes, I like that. We actually planned all of this. And also, hello to everybody watching and listening at home. Thank you for all your comments that are coming flying in. And thank you for joining us for a 200th episode special. Hey, and what a better way than to also talk about the offensive line. We've been really eager. What's really cool, right? Think about this, right? About how the Cowboys roster is, and we're on the positional breakdown series. So it's now, right? Think about this: offensive line, defensive line, pass rushers, linebackers, defensive backs. They're the next 5 weeks.
Yep, it's going to get spicy.
Oh, man. It's like we've slowly built up to it. It's really nice. Right, let's hit the news and updates, guys, and then we'll crack on with the show. All right, coming out the gate, we'll start with the bad news first. So the bad news is linebacker Devonte Bond. He's gone out with an ACL tear today. He's officially on IR. He's done. They have said as well it's going to be surgically repaired, so season done. Opens the door for Aaron Hansford, fellow Aggie, but yeah, never a good way to get into the roster. So that's the bad news. In terms of bad news, apart from one other thing which we'll get to, that's really it for now. Some good news. Right, here we go. Getting the inside scoop, getting some filtered information here. Some good news. Michael Gallup's been at training on the resistance cords, working out, training, looking good. They're thinking, going off questions, by the time he's game ready, you're looking at about week 4, week 5. So not bad going. Here's
Yep.
the good news. The good news. Jabril Cox news.
Oh,
Oh,
Got this today. He is going to be ready for training camp.
oh.
To play week 1. To play week 1 is fully expected.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
So, Paul,
Brilliant.
you can take that news for your Sunday show.
Oh.
It is
Oh,
officially. He is going to be in training for training camp. They expect him to be full go for preseason week 1 against the Bucks to be in the lineup.
To be fair, one of the other guys, probably Tony or Mike Ryle or even RJ, might even pick up that article and do it for one of the other shows on Blogging the Boys. So they'll probably end up posting that.
I don't think it's been written up yet. It's
Is it
literally no. This is
Right.
This is an insider's.
Wow.
Yeah, we get the scoops here. We get the scoops by sneaking in the information. So some other news. Jake Ferguson has been signed. That means all the rookies in this year's class have been officially signed now, which leads to the next thing. Dalton Schultz is holding out, if you want to call it that. At this stage, he's in the OTA phase, so it's voluntary. The holdout to me definitely screams agent. Agent is saying, hold out.
Yeah.
Do not go
absolutely.
This
See,
is an agent.
I said this. See, once that David and Joko deal just came out the blue, as
exactly.
It is,
Yeah.
like I knew from the get go, oh god, like this is just going to turn into an agent versus Stephen Jones battle again. It's going to be more like I think it's going to be more like. Here's the thing: when you look at all the tight ends in the league right now, some of them I don't even think they're even worth that amount of money. Like the only two I could really say is Kittle and Kelsey. You could say Dallas Goddard for the Eagles. I hate this as much as I hate to say that, but you've got Njoku up there. I can't remember the other tight ends up there. You've got the two Patriots tight ends out there. They're on quite high end contract. I think they're like 15.2 million a year or something like that. Lauren, you can verify that or get the proper statistic on that, but man, it's not looking good.
No, but I mean, the one thing that's surprising about the Njoku contract is it's very cap friendly for the next 2 years, and then in 2024 it actually goes up. So realistically, it's only a 2-year deal, and you can get out of it after that. It's again they've got void years on this as well, but you know, that number for this year is only 3.3 million. Next year it's 8.3 million. Obviously, after that, you can get out of it and you can save money as well. Now, if the Cowboys are talking about a long-term deal with him, the next one to get, obviously Gesicki is also franchise tagged at the moment, so I don't know if Miami are looking to deal with him, but if you are looking to get a long-term deal with Schultz, then you're maybe needing to do it before Gesicki gets signed to a long-term deal. But I think as we discussed a couple of weeks back when I was hosting the tight end show, that you know realistically, does he have a hope? You know, we brought in Jake Ferguson. Obviously, we said that the only reason why Schultz is still on the roster probably is that we knew that Blake Jarwin was, you know, retiring or not going to be able to play this year at least. So, you know, I think you almost need to have that prove it deal, I think, with Schultz, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, let's wait and see. He's definitely not going to hold out beyond OTAs because the money really goes up fast as well. It's like once it becomes mandatory, it's something like I think games.
It's 50,000 a day.
Yeah.
And then it's one game check each time he misses a game as well.
So it's like 600K for a
and
game.
and I think as Dave Hellman touched on yesterday on Cowboys Break, the new CBA, it used to be once a deal was sorted out, all things were forgiven and no fines
They'd
were actually
revap the
levied.
money.
But with the CBA this time round, that actually is in there, and there's no grace for it. So
I wasn't aware of that in the new CBA. Very sneaky. All right, then. Well, let's get into some more news. Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith. Sorry, I'm reading Tyrone Smith as well at the same time because we're doing offensive line. Tyler Smith. We got to see him versus Micah Parsons in OTA.
Yep, and he stonewalled him.
He held him up. Yeah, it was more of a like two magnets. They just repelled each other. And it was good to see. That's interesting. One to look at. Simi Fehoko has been practicing with the first team, which is quite interesting. We had the ultimate dichotomy of what the Cowboys are right now in one play. So you got Dak Prescott throw in an absolute perfectly placed ball to Simi Fehoko. Simi Fehoko tries to catch the ball. Jordan Lewis disrupts. Simi Fehoko fumbles the ball. Malik Hooker takes a pick six. Like, you couldn't, if he was to say, what are the Cowboys like right now? You just go watch the OTAs and watch this play. There you go.
Yep.
It doesn't mean to say Simi Fehoko is a bad player. I'm not saying that at all. But it does go to show that he needs as many first-team reps as he can get right now. You need to find out what he is. You need to get him up to speed because we need to know where we're going with him. Like, take the chance, see what you got. It works out great. If it doesn't, we can move on. It wasn't a huge gamble, but it's more of a gamble if they don't give him any of that. In other OTA news, or has anyone got to add on that?
I was just going to say this year we're in uncharted territory in that, normally you would be saying that what the offense is and the question marks on defense. This year it's very much defense orientated and it's a question mark over the offense. So it'll be interesting to see what we have offensively, during training camp. So
okay. In some other interesting news as well today in OTAs, Charles Haley was at practice working with Micah.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that's a very tasty bit of news. Also in other news, Tony Pollard playing from the slot and returning punts. So it looks like he's going to be the do-it-all player. By the way things are going, we'll have to wait and see, of course, on that. But what do you guys make of this with Tony Pollard?
I'm not too sure.
Just keep things going. All right then. LVE, he's been getting praise, which is good to see. Trayvon Diggs made a comment as well. Said, look, it's only my second year playing. They asked about how do you bounce into having an 11 interception season. Just said, look, I've only been playing cornerback for 2 years in the NFL. Still got a lot to learn. Let's wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
Can't say anything more than that. Go on, Paul.
I was just going to say, I was saying this to Meg on the Wolves Team podcast. Like, I'm going to keep like everything close to my chest all the way up to week 1. Like, I know you're saying it's looking promising there, it's looking promising there and there. I am literally for this year taking everything with a pinch of salt. Like,
you got to.
I don't want to go in there and get my hopes up, like, because I know we're not. Like, in comparison to last year, we don't have that same type of caliber of team that when you look at the roster, it screams that we could easily made the Super Bowl that year, last season. This year, there's still a lot of questions. Is every draft pick that we made, was that the right decision? How, like we still don't even know with regards to our off season and stuff. I know I might sound like I'm putting a bit of a damper on right now, but I just want to be real about this. I want to be as realistic. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. I don't want to be I don't want to be given a false narrative. I just want to be speaking facts and be real about it.
Yeah, it's fine.
I think you're perfectly right, Paul. I mean, you know, as you always say with OTAs, the pads aren't on at the moment, so things like the fact that Tyler Smith managed to stonewall Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons then went. What they were saying as well yesterday is that Micah Parsons then went to the other side and absolutely hammered into Terence Steele and knocked Terence Steele flat on his back.
Yeah,
so
knocked him on his back. He threw him like an empty tracksuit. Is my favorite saying. He literally did.
You stole that from me. You
did I? I've been using that one for years.
Oh no, I said it quite a lot. I said that quite a lot when you were up in Glasgow and you were like, "Oh man."
Yeah, I mean, it's true.
We've got
the thing is as well. I mean, you know that we're going to go 0-3 or whatever in the preseason because you don't want to go 3-0. Any team that generally has gone 3-0 in preseason tanks completely in the regular season. So. As long as we're building up, we get through preseason healthy, we get everybody as sharp as we can, and then take it week by week. Don't start saying we're Super Bowl bound or whatever. Just take it week by week, and let's get to the playoffs first, and then take it week by week there as well. So
I am definitely not saying Super Bowl or playoffs. I'm just saying game by game. I am definitely, after last year, after our good friend Brad Sham was saying that you cannot get ahead of yourselves, you need to think about the game at hand. And he is absolutely right. And I am going by the Brad Sham Bible in this one.
The roster is certainly going to be starkly different, and in terms of talent level is going to be very different. The question marks really are how have players developed in the off season? That's the big one. Like usually, because we've had quite a lot of stability, especially on offense. When you think about it, year by year, there's been a lot of stability there where you're just like, you know what you're going to get. Yep. Where now it's like, well, how are players going to develop? Like what are they going to do with Tony Pollard? How's CD Lamb looking as a wide receiver one? How's Terence Steele going to work out? Like these, where's Tyler Biadasz coming up to now? These are the sort of things that, those developmental questions that you get with the roster. But yes, the last piece of information we got for you on the news and updates is the UK Cowboys fan travel package. The news on that was released yesterday. So everybody been look at that, has been working behind the scenes on this one. 2013.
Oops.
You got DeLorean, Paul.
Yeah, 2023.
2023. You're all right, brother. You're all right. I like it. But it is the travel package. Information on that you can find on our Facebook. Go and have a read. It doesn't necessarily have to be from the UK. If you're flying from anywhere, Ireland, Europe, come and join us. Come and take a look. Questions will be answered if you have them. We will do weekly updates on it as well. So every week we will be adding and giving information into the package. Go on.
Just fixing the banner just now so people can see it. So here we go. Here we go.
Look at that. All done.
Yes.
And there it is. Like, visit our Facebook group details. It is on the page as well for more details, questions. If you want to send them over, send them over. But it is set up and ready to go. You will find us lot there. We will be over there, taking your hand and guiding you on your alcoholic, inebriated way through the Dallas Cowboys week of craziness. I don't know how to pronounce it, but we'll go with that.
Yeah, and guys, when we say this is a package deal, when you see what's actually involved in this deal and for the amount and for what's involved,
it's everything.
I cannot hear anything because you were rustling paper there.
Yeah, sorry, I was turning my pages over.
Turning your pages, it was like what, a yellow book of yellow pages or something.
Sorry.
But yeah, guys, but be sure to go to our Facebook group. if you have any questions, be sure to even contact us directly from Twitter or even from the Facebook group. So any questions, feel free to ask.
Yes. So that's the news and update, guys. You will see the updates on the travel package. We'll talk about it on you each week as we get more and more information out to you. At this stage, it's just giving you the chance to take a look and get ready to put the savings away and all the rest of it. I can't wait. It's going to be great fun.
You got traffic out there?
Yeah, I got my window open. It's boiling in here. All right, guys, let's move this on then. Yes, we are into the offensive line in the position breakdown series. So the way I thought we would do this is we'll go with the starters first. Then we'll go through the sort of the four guys behind, then the new guy, then the undrafted free agent. So we'll start with the starting lineup. Tell me if you agree or disagree on this. All right, it's going to be pretty obvious, man.
Okay.
Tyrone Smith, Tyler Smith, Terrence Steele, Zach Martin, Tyler Biadasz. Are we all in agreement that that looks like it's going to be the starting five?
It's the most logical starting. Yeah.
Yep. The only one, obviously, we've got question marks at the moment is that, if he's got a sore back now in OTAs, is he going to manage to suit up week one? But Tyrone Smith, obviously, at some point, we're going to have to cope without him for at least a week. So
it's not even a question of when, really, is it? With Tyrone Smith, it's more of a question of how long for.
Yeah,
that's the question you're asking. You're just like going, right, well, how long can we survive without him? Because don't forget, right, that for offensive tackles, Tyrone Smith last season was third in offensive blocking grade. Third.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, when he's on the field, I mean, he's still an absolute unit, and it's difficult to get around. And I mean, even some of the holding penalties that he picked up last year is purely because the guys were going low, and his hands. He is such an absolute monster that as soon as you go low, his hands just unfortunately makes it look like he's holding. So, but he can still do the job when he's on the field. It's just a case, much like Sean Lee, it's a case of making him on the field. We've got that same problem. So
I can't disagree there. And I know that they've been doing it. That Tyler Smith in OTAs this week has been playing left tackle, especially when Tyrone Smith had the back soreness, as they were reporting it, lower back soreness. And you're just like, okay, fine. Right. He goes out. We get to see Tyler Smith in the left tackle position. Look fine. But what I find, and I don't know what you guys think, but Tyrone Smith goes out. Tyler Smith goes into the left. God, this sounds weird. Left tackle position. As soon as Tyrone Smith came back, Tyler Smith was immediately bumped to left guard. So I think they're pretty much saying that this is how it's going to go. That this is what they're happy with. And then Tyler Smith, do they use him as the swing tackle type guy and have a swing guard? This is where it gets tricky.
I think this is where Lindstrom might come into play.
Well, he's been having issues of his own mind.
Well,
Like we still don't even know what we're going to be using Josh Ball as well.
Yeah.
Like there's just so many questions when it comes to our second strings and how they're going to be molded into the starting, like not a starting role, but become in the actual lineup. Like how we're going to utilize them. So it's going to be very interesting to see how we're going to do that.
Yeah. Now, what is interesting is Tyrone Smith, 32 years of age. He is crazy. Zach Martin's 32 as well. Look how quick that time's gone by.
And if memory serves me right, Zach's only been in the league for 9 years, and and I think Tyrone, this is going to be his 11th or 12th season.
Or is Zach in it for 8 years?
Let me
8 and 10 years.
Yeah, but yeah, so Zach is the 2, right? Both Tyrone Smith, so he's the most expensive offensive lineman, 17.5 million, unrestricted free agent in 2024. Zach Martin, 12, unrestricted free agent in 2025. Tyrone Steele, he's on the least with 900k. He's a restricted free agent next year, but he's going to get re-signed, so I'm not too worried about that. Tyler Smith, obviously, he's on his rookie contract. Tyler Biadasz, he's on 1 mil, and he's an unrestricted free agent in 2024. But, I mean, when you go and you look at the positional spending, this is what's crazy. You know, offensive line, generally, on the offensive line position, the Cowboys only ranked 10th in expenditure on that, with 42.8 million of the cap going on it. But I was thinking about it, I was like, they got to be higher than that. But no, they're only ranked 10th. Which is pretty wild.
So Tyron's already played 11 seasons. This will be his 12th season, and he's 32.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. That's when you really put that in perspective, that's a lot of wear and tear.
Oh yeah,
a lot.
I mean, he was only 20. He was only 20 when he was actually drafted. So
that's true.
Yeah. And just to put this in perspective, though, Lauren, like both of us have played both sides of the ball. Like you've played O line and D line, so have I.
Yeah.
And even just from like in comparison to Tyrone, it's like you cannot imagine how gruesome it could be year after year after year for almost 12 seasons now, how much that affect that on your body. And as much as it hates me to say this, I know we're saying when he's on the field, yeah, great, we still need him on the field, but this is just going to be a constant decline now. I really do find that is the case. I hope I'm proven wrong, but it seems like we've not had one complete season of Tyrone Smith in the past 5 seasons, I believe.
Something like 2015 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that
was the last time he played 16 games.
Yeah. So it's more than that. So you're talking about like 7 seasons. He's not had a complete season.
Well, put it this way: Dak has never had Tyrone for a complete season.
Full season, yeah.
I think it was the year before. I think it was the year before was the year that he managed. Yeah, Romo. So yeah, it's difficult. Zach Martin this is his 9th season, by the way. Yeah, 32 years old as well. So the one thing I would say is that offensive linemen, certainly back in the 70s and 80s, they would normally last about 14, 15 years. So there is still scope, but I think we probably are looking at the sort of last season for Tyrone. Next year I think we're on to dead or voidable years on his contract. So it's a case of renew him if you are going to do anything. And I don't.
Go on, keep going.
No, I think he's the reliability that we can't depend on him for the whole season. I think that probably, especially we seem to be going for much younger players now. Criticize Stephen Jones all you want, but certainly this is going to be a very young roster that we've got. So.
But they do say that it was the old coach's rule, which works quite well, of get your offensive line to have a total age of 150. But don't go, and basically the more you go over that, the more that line declines. And when you look at it, both Zach and Tyrone Smith are the ones instigating the overshoot. Obviously, the thing that comes into favor is Tyler Smith is only 21. So brings all of that down. But that's like their rule of thumb, is to try and get your offensive line as close to the age of 150. And that's like the best age. Like whenever an offensive line group are at that age, they're always like at the peak. it's always worked out to be the best. But here's a question for you both. How do you feel about Tyler Biadasz coming into this season? Now, some people will say he's still got a long way to go. They'll say about his blocking and everything else. But the one I got for you is quite interesting, is the last game of the season against the 49ers.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
He was the best offensive lineman statistically in that game.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think how I'm going to word this. I think with having a Tyler, not this is going to get so confusing now.
I know. When I was
Tyler,
just doing it, I was like, I sound like a crazy person.
Right, your phone's still cutting in.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. There you go. It's away. It's away.
Yeah. So Tyler Smith, with him playing at guard, I think we're going to have that different bit of. It's going to be different compared to what Biadasz is used to.
Yeah.
Like I don't think Biadasz won't necessarily worry about his left guard getting pushed in the backfield and towards him as much. That's one thing I will say. Yeah, Mike, I'm still getting it.
Yep.
It can't be me then.
Mine's off, so.
Away.
My phone's dead.
Can you still hear it?
Not anymore. Not
anymore now.
Okay, staying over there now.
Well, anyway, so, I mean, you mentioned a bit like the San Francisco. Yeah, I get that. Like I generally thought Biadasz had a really good game. All things considered, we did not perform as a team very well. Mm-hmm. It's definitely promising going forward into this season. I mean, if anything as well, God, I sound like bloody Amber Heard's lawyer there. Jesus.
I stepped on a bee.
No, what if anything? With having like a proper center, undrafted Alec Lindstrom from Boston College in there, we've actually more proper competition as well to elevate each other as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for Tyler Biadasz, it's a good thing going into this season.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've touched on, obviously, last year the problem with the offensive line was it a case of it being Tyler Biadasz or was it Connor Williams? And the offensive line can only be effective as effective as the weakest link. Now, if Tyler was having to do extra to compensate for something that Connor Williams wasn't managing to do, then maybe that affected his game. Conversely, if Connor Williams was actually better than he was being seen to be, we just don't know. This will be a test for him this year. The one thing I would say is we have seen that obviously he is working out with Duke Manyweather this year. Mm-hmm. He's appearing in a lot of the training videos that are being put out on Duke's Instagram page and Twitter pages. So again, hopefully another year working with him, another year removed from the shoulder injury that he had in his senior year at Wisconsin as well, and just getting that extra, being able to put the strength and conditioning in. Maybe, this will be the year that he actually comes to fruition.
Yeah, and as you can see, joining us all the way from Tennessee, we've got Marcus from Bluff City Cowboys back in the building.
Hello, Marcus.
Hello.
2 weeks in a row. Glad to be here.
Yeah, multitasking as always. We're just talking. We're talking offensive line more specifically in the moment, Tyler Biadasz. But yeah, I think really when you think about it, like, and we've said this before, me and you attested to this, Paul, that last year you've really got to count that as Tyler Biadasz's rookie season. Because the season before he was stuck behind Joe Looney, so he didn't really get a chance. Not sure the reasoning behind that. For me, I would have put him in there to see what you get. But here's an interesting statistic for you. that if you class that as his rookie year, Tyler Biadasz, 819 pass blocking snaps. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Only 1 sack.
Okay.
Statistically, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, obviously, he does give up a lot of pressures. He gave up some hurries. So that's needless to say. That I'm not saying that we're going, he was unfit. No, because he did give up a lot of hurries. In fact, of all the offensive linemen, Terrence Steele gave up the most. Tyler Biadasz gave up the second most.
Yeah,
Go on.
yeah. I was going to say, like, if there was one, like, I know I'm kind of maybe jumping from one thing to the other here, but if there's one thing that I thought Biadasz, like, well, from start of the season till that San Francisco game, he wasn't the greatest at communication with the rest of his O-line in terms of like setting out, like, okay, this is your guy, the guy in the B gap or the guy in the A gap, whatever, depending on what the blocking scheme was. I didn't feel as though there was enough communication. It just felt as though they were just kind of like standing and wait to see what happens, essentially.
Like calling the adjustments on the fly.
Yeah, essentially. But you did get to see that improved quite a fair bit during that San Francisco game.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll get you in, Marcus, because you just joined us. Thank you for giving us your time. In terms of Tyler Biadasz, what are his strengths and weaknesses then? What do you think are his best traits and how they're going to really evolve into the next season?
I mean, I think he's a pretty good center. I'm glad to see that he has real competition this year.
Yeah. Paul just
last
said that,
year, they tried to manufacture competition by moving Connor Williams inside.
Yeah.
Oh, you about to say something, Paul?
I was going to say Connor Williams is now getting the center snaps in Miami now.
Yep.
So
I saw that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, we saw what that looked like last year. I mean, what was it like? 1 out of 10 snaps was just a roller. So we got Farniok, who looks good, and we got some young guys who are coming in who are real centers who will give them competition.
Yeah.
I've seen, like Paul was saying before, his biggest issue is kind of communication, and that's a big issue when you're talking about center because the center calls everything. I know people like to pull up that clip of when Tyrone Smith kind of blocked the wrong way and like he was blocking his own man. That could easily been as much on Tyler Biadasz making the wrong line shield.
The wrong call.
Right.
Exactly. Yep.
Because he's telling them where the mic is, and that's where everybody else blocks from.
Yeah.
Yep.
And stuff like that is what he really needs to work on.
Yeah. I mean, when you put the comparison between Tyler Biadasz and Travis Frederick, if there's one thing that you stream at Travis Frederick is he has unlimited amounts of communication, and I'm getting more feedback from Mike's his cell phone again.
Sorry.
Because you're seeing before they even set themselves, you're seeing like Frederick's pointing there. There's your Mike, there's your Sam, there's they're talking about one high, like in terms of where the safety is and stuff like that. He's helping Dak's communication as well. So I think that plays a big factor as well. So it's again just to kind of like go on what you're saying. If there's one thing he just needs to improve, is just give Dak as much communication, give him as much information as possible before the snap.
Yes,
and that will make a big, massive difference.
Just so you know as well, on another tidbit before anyone interjects, Travis Frederick is doing really good, by the way, up in Wisconsin. Got a computer business.
Oh, good for him. Well done.
Not surprised.
Just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah.
But go on, Marcus. Yeah, I know you was gonna pop in on something.
The only strength I can see is experience. I mean, you look at the other guys we have. He's a vet right now. Nobody else really has more than probably 50 snaps in the NFL at the center position when you look at Conor Mcgovern and Matt Farniok. So you hope that's enough, but you look at guys, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about this, like a Alec Lindstrom. Lindstrom may be farther ahead mentally.
Yes. Yeah. See, that's just what
mentally.
See, this is where I think this is going to be quite an interesting training camp, because if Dak feels more comfortable getting more information from a center that's going to give him better, in terms of they know what they're doing in terms of the blocking scheme, that will have his say that, okay, I feel more comfortable. Like, the snaps might not be as better, but at least the communication is better, and the O-line know exactly what they're doing.
Alex Lindstrom, like, physically is way behind though. He's gonna get if he was to be our star, he'd be bullied off the line way more. He like physically.
I agree. I
agree with that too.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
we'll helped as well by having appendicitis in the first week of OTAs. Now, they didn't say whether he had to have surgery on that, but obviously that's, in most cases that's the case, that it ruptures and you've got to go in and clean it all out, and then that takes time for your body to recover from that injury as well, of just being cut open. So
but
plus he's a left-hander as well, so it's
true.
There's a little change in intricacies with the snap for that.
The way the ball's spinning at the quarterback, all of that. But here's one for you, right, guys? Tell me if I'm wrong or not. That for me, I feel the top 3 players on this Cowboys roster are on the offense. 2 of them are on the offensive line.
When healthy, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not on about like as a full, but I mean in terms of talent.
Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely.
No argument there.
Yeah. So that's a good place to start. But let's move to the next 3 guys, because we looked at the starters. I feel really that's kind of at this stage a no-brainer until we see more really in preseason games. But the next guys are the next four guys really we'll look at before we look at the additions from UDFAs and free agency. So the next 4 guys is obviously the rookie Matt Waletzko, Conor Mcgovern, who's on a contract year, by the way, 25 years of age, 2.7 on the cap. So as I say, contract year, also plays fullback. So that's quite interesting to know. Matt Farniok, 24 years of age, unrestricted free agent 2025 on a rookie contract. Same as Josh Ball. He's 24 years of age. He was taken in the 4th round in 2021, just to remind you guys. Of these 4 guys, I feel that, and it's crazy, it's mad to say this, the rookie Matt Waletzko for me is probably the safest choice.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at his relative athletic score, jeez, I think he's. I mean, that's definitely something that definitely stood out, just like even from a physical, athleticism point of view. But it'll be very interesting to see how we're going to utilize him. And I know I briefly spoke on it just before you came on, Marcus. I kind of mentioned that I think Waletzko will definitely be more that swing tackle, but how we're going to utilize him and depending on the scenarios of what plays that we're going to use and stuff like that, I think it really depends what the situation is.
I mean,
I
can see Waletzko be... Go ahead, Lauren. I'm sorry.
No, the one I was going to say is obviously Conor Mcgovern. The one thing he needs to work on this offseason, if he hasn't already been, is being able. He's supposedly he's better as a right-handed on the right-hand side of the offensive line. He needs to have that flexibility to go across the left-hand side. So hopefully he's been working on his footwork for the left-hand side. Obviously he was left guard the first week of OTAs when they were sort of bringing Tyler in slowly. It's certainly an area where you can see him challenging this year, but again, it's a contract year for him, so hopefully that spurs him on. But I think, as you say, Waletzko is probably the safest bet.
Yeah,
and also don't forget Conor McGovern cost me $10 to Rob Phillips.
What was the bet?
He'd score a passing touchdown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Rob was like, "Yeah, all right then."
Now, if you'd said any offensive lineman, because Terrence Steele
I know.
got it.
Yeah. But at the time, if you remember, Conor Mcgovern was playing like all these weird, like fullback, H-back type roles, you know,
Yeah.
and we were like, oh, he's going to score a touchdown. But yeah, I mean, Matt Farniok is for me a guy like the interesting one. Well, let's go say Conor Mcgovern. I feel like here's my problem with these not Matt. Well, let's go because he wasn't there last season. We tried Conor McGovern, we seen, and it didn't work out, right?
Yeah.
So we know where we are with Conor McGovern. But during all of the strife and struggles that we had with the offensive line, injuries and performance, we had both Matt Farniok and Josh Ball there to play, and they refused to put them on the field. So I have to wonder where they are in terms of development.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Ball obviously hampered by the injury that he picked up in camp that ended up going on IR. Farniok, you saw him in that Philadelphia game, the second half of the final game against Philadelphia. I actually thought he played pretty well there, and I thought, this center is probably somewhere. If we hadn't brought in two new centers in the UDFAs that we'd picked up, I thought Farniok would be the chief competition for Biadish this year, and I thought, looking at that Philadelphia game, I actually thought that Farniok actually proved himself quite well to get the snaps in a way, but
But
again, the big thing about Farniok is that he was being used as he's the Swiss Army knife of the offensive line. He can be played at every single he can be played at every single offensive line position. I think he was being lined up various positions during training camp last year and expected to make a but you really need to get when they're young, you need to focus them in on one position and try and get them to excel there, and then you can tinker about with where you're putting them on the line. But
yeah, because he is the inside offensive line Swiss Army knife guy. I agree. But I mean, here's a good one, Marcus. You can attest to this, right? Because we're talking about development with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
For me, and I don't know if you can help me in trying to agree, or even if you disagree actually with this comment. For me, offensive linemen, for them to develop, is not really during the season. It's this time of year. So from when the season ends to after training camp, that's your development stage, if you like, for an offensive. After that, it's all out the window, and it's just installment from your offensive line coach.
Yep.
I agree with that, because you have to get continuity set in the offseason, because offensive line is just as much about playing with the guy to the left and the right as it is for your own personal development. So when training camp starts, really development's out the window. At that point, you're just trying to find what five guys can play best together and work off of each other. So you got to work on your strength and your agility. That's January to April or whatever. After that, it's all about the best five. And I want to go back and address something Lauren said a while ago about
go for it, man.
About Conor McGovern, because I played a little bit of offensive line. I didn't play at a top level, but I played a little bit in the college. It's hard changing positions. Like you can work on footwork. You can say footwork is something. It's left hand, right hand.
Which college now? Which college you play for? Come on.
I mean, I played for a junior college.
Yeah.
I played for a junior college in Mississippi for like a year or so.
Nice.
Crazy.
There we go.
I couldn't gain weight back then. Like I was stuck around 275, 280.
It's not bad for an offensive lineman.
But offensive lineman, you got to hit 300 to be pretty good. And then once I stopped playing, of course, the weight skyrocketed. But so that's one of those things fans don't understand. Like you see a guy that's 320 and you think he's a fat slob. No, 320 at the NFL level is as athletic as most running backs or skill position high school level players. These guys are freak athletes at that size, and it's hard to keep that weight and keep athleticism. So going back to me, like I was left-handed, and I played all five positions really. I could not play right guard because it was just something about being left-handed to come out of that stance. I couldn't do it. And Conor Mcgovern could be one of those guys. Some people can play certain positions. Some guys can only play one side.
Yep.
And you talk about Mike McCarthy. He's mentioned Tyler Smith is going to be a left side guy. He hasn't mentioned him being a swing guy. He's a left guard, left tackle guy. It could be something they've seen. It could be that that deformity or that disease he had, that he had his leg broken, that prevents him playing the right side. But there are a lot of things that come into play where Conor McGovern just could not be a left side guy for one reason or another. And that hurts him on this team because he's pretty much stuck being Zach Martin's backup.
Yeah. And it's like the analogy we've used before on here on playing offensive line on the left and the right is it's like trying to wipe your ass with the opposite hand.
Mm-hmm. That's a good analogy.
It's just not going to be as clean.
It's funny you say that as well. I mean, I've played all 5 positions on the offensive line for the Wolves when I was playing as well, and left guard was the one that I couldn't play. I had stinkers of a game where I was playing, so I could play every other position. Left tackle for some reason was easy for me, but left guard just
same for me.
The whole footwork, it was just not good. So
and go back to another point. I'm left-handed. I was a starting center up until my junior year of high school, and they moved me from center because the quarterback couldn't take a snap from a left-handed person. The spin was different for him, and he kept double catching it. So stuff like that makes a big difference.
See, for likes of myself, I only play left tackle and left guard. I could not play center. I could not play right guard, and I could not play right tackle because my dominant foot was left, and I always used that for kicking back because it had a lot more weight distribution to if I'm doing my pass protection, and especially for my first step, I feel as though I could just gain that more power, get that more advantage. But where if I was on the right hand side, changing using my weak foot as the back foot, I didn't feel as though I was getting enough hit as much.
Yep.
And I feel as though I was getting put in my place all the time if I'm playing on the right hand side. So I completely agree. It's people say, offensive line, you should need to try and learn that. But this is why I love Zach Martin's comment. It's like, keep me at right guard. That's the best you're going to get me. Don't put me to right tackle. Don't put me to left guard. Don't put me to center. Don't put me to left tackle. Right guard is where I want to play. Right guard as well will play. And it's like, because if you don't put
and when you look at the results, how can you argue?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, we're saying let's go is the safest bet. These group of guys. I mean, we're talking in terms of from the outside looking in, because when we know what we got with Conor Mcgovern, we've seen what that is. But also with the 3 guys, apart from Waletzko, we don't know how they're going to develop during this development stage that we just spoke about during the offseason. So how far they come along it could be another thing, and they could very well make it difficult for the Cowboys staff to make a decision on this. Waletzko as well, bear in mind, he's been beaten a few times and got pushed into the back for a guy his size. And, I know you talked about his RAS score, Paul, which is crazy. I think he's 4th overall since historically when it started taking place in the 80s. But he has been pushed into the backfield, and he's been done so by numerous defensive pass rushes. But the next guy, and I'm glad you're here, Marcus, because maybe you can help fill a void on this one for me, is TCU's Aviante Collins. Now, he's 29 years of age, been with Minnesota. That was back in 2017. Pittsburgh last year. He's with Dallas this year on a 2-year deal. This year, $895K against the cap. What do you know about him?
I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about him.
No. I mean, I tried to scour to try and find information out about him, and there isn't a lot. The only thing I've got is that he's taken 3 snaps. He's been in five games, started 1, and that's about it.
Yep.
Nothing. I mean, honestly, I don't think we're bringing in a guy outside to play tackle. I think it's Ball or Waletzko job. I mean, he's a good guy to bring in for camp because you need bodies, but
Yeah. And do you think he was a guy that they got just to cover themselves just in case?
I think so because you don't know how the draft's gonna go.
Yeah.
So, and we still don't know what Josh Ball is. So
Yeah.
they could have felt, you know what, we don't know how the tackles are gonna fall in the draft. We may not see a guy we like.
Yeah.
Let's bring in this guy as a security blanket.
That's what it was for me. And I, to be honest with you, the way I'm looking at it, because there's not in his contract, if they were to cut him, before the season starts, they're not in it for much at all. Yeah. So it's not a huge loss. The next
again, he's somebody who was on the practice squad last year.
Yeah.
Wasn't. I don't think he was promoted at all.
No, he wasn't.
To even being on the 46 or the 53.
Yeah, or the 53.
So he maybe was an insurance policy last year. I think, to be honest, he's probably gone this year. We've got enough young guys that we'll keep these guys.
Just to let Austin know what's going on. Yeah, YouTube have got, I don't know what it is. They've got trolling with bots. They're sending unnecessarily explicit messages to don't go elsewhere. So yeah,
it's called dead internet theory.
Mm-hmm.
Look it up. It's real. It exists. That's for the conspiracy conversation that we do one day on the conspiracy podcast. But yeah, I mean, we'll leave. There's one last guy I want to talk about after we speak about these guys, because he is a bit of a fan favorite. But it's the undrafted free agent segment. So we got Braylon Jones, who's an undrafted free agent in 2021, who plays guard. Amon Smith from Texas A&M Commerce, not Texas A&M, before you go and say anything. Completely separate. Then we've got centers James Empey and Alex Lindstrom. Now, I don't know what you guys are going to make of this comment, but for me, of the undrafted free agent guys, I feel the guy that's got the safe, or not the safest, the guy I think is most likely from this group to make it to maybe perhaps the practice squad is James Empey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
My issues are Alex Lindstrom. I know everyone talks about, raves about. My issue with Alex Lindstrom is he's a pure center only. He provides you nothing in anything else, like special teams. Go on.
But isn't that a good thing, though?
Well, no, because think about it, you've got Matt Farniok and you've got Tyler Biadasz. So you've got a start and a backup already.
See, this is the difference between what I think about what you're thinking, mate. It's like I am complete opposite. I want O-line that are position specific, especially
at center.
Exactly. I don't want another Connor Williams hybrid to move in. Someone that moves in that can flick the ball a couple of times and get put in the backside.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that. I want a center who's actually played ball in college at that specific position and sit there as throughout the whole professional career. That's the only.
I know where you're coming from, but I'm just saying you've already got two guys that are going to be playing center for you. Like, they're not going to have a third backup center in the you've got James Empey.
So who are you saying is the backup?
Farniok, Biadasz, so they're your two because that's what they've been doing. Then you've got Empey then who can provide you with inside offensive line stability and special teams, and he's more physical and he's been doing it. He has in college. He was a lot. What's the word I'm looking for? Consistent.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm more with Paul on this one. I think center is a little bit different than other positions. I don't really care about if he's not flexible to go to another spot.
Yeah, I just think that, especially when you're talking about the guys, I know where you're coming from, but I'm just thinking guys later down in the roster, you need them to do more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the more you can do, the more likely you'll be able to get a spot. And I just think Lindstrom, I get where people are coming from, and he is smart. and all the rest of it. MP obviously comes with the injury history, but I just think that overall, physically, he's the better center, if you like. But the last guy I want to talk about, because he's a bit of a fan favorite, and I think, especially off last year's Hard Knocks, everyone took a liking to him, and that's the international Mexican Isaac Alakom.
Yes.
Do we think this is the year he breaks through?
I hope so. I love Isaac. I love him to bits.
Yeah,
like, he brings something different. I personally think he would be quite a good fit within the guard position. I think he has the nastiness to play that position. I don't know, but you could argue he is a tall boy. He can play tackle as well, but I think he'll be a much more better mold within the guard position. If I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I actually, when we had Rob Phillips on a couple of weeks ago, asked about that. Obviously, there'd been a Spanish reporter had asked Mike McCarthy during one of his press conferences, I think first week of OTAs. Mike McCarthy has said that physically he has changed over the 3 years. He is now looking like an NFL starting guard. Even last year, you would say when you were watching Hard Knocks, there was probably a little bit more flab than you probably wanted in an offensive lineman, and I know that's strange to say, but this year the guy looks rock solid apparently, and he is picking things up. You can see that the offensive coaching staff were into him last year just from the way that they were shouting at him and jeering him along last year during Hard Knocks. Now, admittedly, that can be team skewed to make it look, again, to promote the international series or something like that. But it just looks like he is a guy that is not only a fan favorite, a coach's favorite as well.
Yeah. He's a very likable guy.
Yeah. He's got the ability that obviously we can carry him again this year. He's got that third year of eligibility on the International Player Pathway Program. So you could carry him again. He automatically reverts to the practice squad if he's cut at final stages of the cut down. So you could keep him, you could stash him, and then obviously activate him mid-season if you're needing him as a stand-in or anything. But I think he's got real potential this year. To obviously we've got a lot of numbers on the squad this year, but he's there, and I think he will be fighting for a job this year. And if his NFL career does come to an end as well, he already has been drafted by the Calgary Stampeders up north as well, so he's still got an area to pursue once the NFL's exhausted his opportunities.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just getting some news about OTAs today, which I'll come back to in a bit. But I really like. If you think about it, if he made at this stage, if Alakom made the team in a backup role, that would just be like, it would be a feel-good story with this kind of off-season that we've had with all the bad news. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, what is it you like about him, Marcus?
I mean, you guys hit all the points. He's a big kid. He's had several years to kind of learn the game. I know when he came in, he was very raw. Coming from that Mexican league. He showed a lot of toughness. He showed a lot of physicality, which is something you definitely need if you plan on playing the NFL. I'm curious to see if he can play some tackle. I know they play him a lot at guard. I think his only chance to make the roster, if I believe, Lauren, you said he has another eligibility year for that International Pathways program.
Yep.
Okay. So,
but as soon as he spends any time on the
roster
53 on the 53, that's it. It's done.
Right.
So if you cut him mid-season in the hope of putting him on the practice squad, it's a practice squad place. It's not
and a gamble.
Right. And that's my biggest concern with them, because we've been talking all this time about all these guys who have guard flexibility. I mean, we got 7 guys who can all play guard, and then you have him. If the team's looking at roster development, which we all have to kind of keep in our back of our minds, and we see them do it all the time, playing games with injury reserve and pup list and stuff like that. This is a free spot. So unless he just comes in and outright beats a couple of guys, they're not going to risk putting him on the roster this year unless they have to.
Yeah.
Unless he could stand out at that tackle position where there's a legitimate spot open for somebody as a backup. If he's at guard, I think it's almost inevitable he stays in that Pathways program.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And just to tie in as well with offensive line news, John Ridgway and Josh Ball got into a fight today in OTAs, and John Ridgway had to go to the locker room.
I would love to have seen that, to be honest with you, man.
Yeah, and
how
that's
did
ironic.
those two get... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go on. I know what you're going to say.
I'm trying to think of how those two got tangled up with him playing nose tackle and Josh Ball playing left tackle.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, like, so if he's playing those, it could be a 2 gap from being like a 1 tech moving into the B gap, and
or some sort of stunt.
Yeah, it'll be a or the defensive lineman comes inside, like, that pretty much, like, it just depends.
I love it.
I will try and find out more. Another interesting one is you were on with us last week talking wide receiver. Brandon Smith, I mean, what an athletic catch. Double coverage and towers over them for like an athletic catch, which was crazy. TJ Vasher getting more first team offensive work. CD Lamb out along with Terrell Basham and Noah Brown. Doesn't say why. Tyler Smith looking good. Interesting one, and I mean, we'll talk about when we get to safety. Marquise Bell having a good OTA at the moment. That's about it. The other news is relatively what you expect. Jake Ferguson in with Dalton out. Hooker, Jamin Curse both held out. Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis didn't practice. 11-on-11, Diggs was in at cornerback. Yeah, it's just the usual stuff then.
Can I ask offensive line question really quick?
You what, sorry?
I got an offensive line question.
Go on then.
It may sound crazy, but I just keep thinking about this. Is there any chance Tyler Smith can get beaten out for left guard?
Oh.
Is there any chance? I mean, I'm not saying there is. I'm just wondering, do you guys think like a Conor McGovern can have a great camp?
Okay. I could hit you with this.
Okay.
His pass protection
No, don't use stats on this one. Don't use stats on this. I'm sorry, I am not allowing you doing it on this one, mate. No stats in this one.
Okay, no stats, just the feelings.
Just feeling.
But his pass blocking isn't great, right? And when you actually think about this, right, when it comes in terms of technique, whether you tackle, guard, center, run blocking essentially is all the same. It's pass protection where it becomes different on side, and your stances are going to be different whether you're an inside or outside guy. But in terms of technique for run blocking, it doesn't really change, and that's really what he's good at. So when you think about that, you could put in a guy who can still do the run blocking side, but is better at pass blocking, and that's what the Cowboys go to. That's the only way I can see it happening, but I don't see that being the case.
Okay. Another question. Is there anybody on the roster who can legitimately compete with Terrence Steele for the starting right tackle position? Or are we just giving it to him with no competition?
No, there's guys. I mean, we talked about Let's Go. You could
put
Josh
more and see this. So you're saying Let's Go, and this is where what me and Marcus were talking about, like in terms of like and Lauren as well, like preference of position. Well, Let's Go's played the majority of it. I'm pretty sure he's played the majority of his career at left tackle. I'm sure. He can adjust. I am sure, but I think he'll be more utilized. He's
been playing on the right in OTA so far.
Has he? All right, okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I would.
That's where he's been getting beaten, mine. But
If anything, I would say it may be up to Josh Ball, and if anything,
you got those two, Josh Ball with Let's Go. They're the only two possibly that could do it, and it's going back to the development. You know, how have they come along during the off season? That big question mark. And
what you've got to think about as well is this off season or this training camp. We've got two practices against the Chargers. We've got one practice against the Denver Broncos. If you look back, historically, there's been a couple of trades normally come off the teams that we've been practicing against. Because obviously it gives our scouts a chance and our coaching staff a chance to actually look at players that are on other rosters without actually having to go and watch game film. You're watching them face to face almost. You're maybe actually doing certain drills with them as well. So you get an idea of what it is. So if it's looking like Terence Steele's not up to scratch this year, potentially that's your next avenue is you engineer some sort of trade, package somebody off or whatever. But certainly I think Josh Ball's probably your best bet at the moment. I think the way they're talking about Let's Go is that he's probably going to be your swing if anything. We haven't brought in a Ty Nzeki, a Cameron Irving, Cameron Fleming type guy. So we are sticking with the younger guys at the moment, and as I say, if it all goes tits up in training camp, then that's when you look at something else. But the other thing you've got to focus on this year, you've only got 3 preseason games to actually get these guys blooded and up to speed. So it's a delicate balance on how you're going to do that this year as well. So,
and you just touched on a question I was going to ask all of you guys, is that obviously not right now, but once we get into training camp, do you see them, because they have this cap space, spending any money on the offensive line, or do you literally think that right now, obviously we're not talking about if a player gets injured, that's a different question. But right now, do you think they would, or are they just literally going to roll with what they got for camp and see what we get out the other end?
I mean, if nobody, go ahead, Paul.
So, on you go, Marcus. You go first, mate.
I was just gonna say, if nobody's injured, I don't see them spending any money on the offensive line. Historically, this team gives their drafted guys every possible opportunity to keep a position on the offensive line. I mean, we bring outside of Joe Looney, anybody that we've drafted, if they look horrible, should probably not be in the league bad. They continue to get opportunities. And, I mean, it's paid out with a guy like Terence Steele. It's still up in the air with a guy like Tyler Biadasz, but he's improving. But we got a lot of young, drafted, undrafted guys on this roster, and they got to sort that out. And I just don't see them bringing anybody in externally to compete with all this young talent that they think they have.
Roll out with what they got, But I mean, that's it, guys, for the offensive line talk. We will be getting back to this once training camp hits. We've only got 1, 2, D-line, pass rusher, linebacker. So we've only got 4 more positional breakdown series to get, and then we're into camp talk. Yes.
Hey, Mike, I think Paul had a comment he wanted to make.
I was going to make a comment about, like, there was the whole talk about GC Tretter, like there was all that speculation, but I don't think that might be the case because he was pretty much more or less a bona fide center himself. So I think that's definitely out of the question now.
The other thing that was interesting about Tretter is that he's one of the guys that's actually trying to advocate for not having OTAs and not having an off-season program. He thinks that you can just turn up for training camp. He almost wants to go back to how it was in the 1970s and 80s, where you have a month and a half training camp or whatever, and you get yourself into shape that way by doing 2-a-days or whatever. You know, he's trying to say that
Well,
it shouldn't be a year-round
The
thing.
NFL doesn't
So
even do 2-a-days anymore.
I'll tell you something. If his former teammate Joe Thomas heard that, he probably ended up getting slapped across the face for that one.
I know, Joe Thomas. Have you seen him lately?
He looks in
aye.
fantastic condition ever since
What a
he's retired.
shape that guy is in.
This just shows what Marcus was saying as well. It's like trying to put the weight on, proper weight on, eh? And obviously Joe Thomas had to eat substantial amounts of food to keep that weight up, and he was not really supposed to be naturally that size, but
well,
made it work.
Now,
You look at the tight end.
That's the thing that gets me about these guys. When you watch them being retired, the offensive linemen get skinny.
Yeah.
The running backs.
Stepnoski's a prime example. Stepnoski's a prime example.
Stepnoski always was, but I mean he then went north of the border to Canada because he
really like that.
Yeah, because
you wonder though, don't you? Like these offensive linemen, what they must eat, like what their diarrhea must be like every day.
Only Mike.
There's a soundbite. But that is it for this week. We'll be back next week where we're talking inside defensive linemen, the defensive tackles, and all those inside guys. Make sure you go and follow some of the guys that are on the screen here. Well, I say some. Follow all of them. Go take a listen. They're all our friends. They do great content. And, of course, it's Cowboys Experience. Discount code UK Cowboys. That's all we're going to say on that one. I'm only saying that so we don't get banned again on YouTube.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. But also, not sure if you've seen this, Marcus, but we have the details of our travel package, which we're coming to America next year, bringing everyone from UK Cowboys.
Okay.
So we might even try and make a little internal flight maybe to Tennessee one day during that trip.
Are you guys going to a specific game, or is that how it's going to work?
We will be, yes.
Yeah.
Have you guys decided or narrowed it down?
Yeah, not yet, because it's next year.
It'll be next year, so we won't know.
We'll have to wait for the schedule to come out. Yeah.
But I'll be coming this year. I'll be going to the Colts and Texans games this year.
Okay.
So both in December, early December.
Okay.
So you need to fly to Marcus and take the big body bag so that you can sneak him into the stadium.
Well, you never know. He might come to Texas and come and join us.
Yeah.
Man, Mendoza, you're late, dude.
Another one of the royalty. But yes, that's it for this week. Thank you, Marcus, for joining us again, mate. I know you're multitasking over there because it's the afternoon in Tennessee. Yeah. But thank you again for joining us. Yeah, we may as well just add you to the team now. You're joining us all the time. But there we go.
Whenever you guys need me, I'll try my best to make myself available.
But I'm going to let these guys sign off. Have a nice weekend, guys. See you all next week when we talk inside defensive linemen.
Let's go, Cowboys.
Yeah, have a good week, guys. See you next week.